Hi guys, Samantha from Jessama Tutorials here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to create some cute resin pendants. And now I have had some requests for resin tutorials after my previous one, which was a while back. So I've been working on a few ideas and this is one of them. So what you're going to need are some resin molds. You can either use these silicone ones that I have, which are very easy to demold, or you can even use some plastic ones such as this one. And I'm going to be demonstrating both today. Okay. So once you've decided on your molds, you also want to look for inclusions. I've got some druzy flakes here, I've got some coral shells, opal flakes, cogs, anything you want. So play around with that and see what you can find. And then when you're done with it, we are ready to go. So first thing is to make sure that your molds are completely clean, and this one looks like it's nice and clean, so we'll start off with this one. And I am going to be using, I'm going to be using this resin today, and this is just some UV resin off of AliExpress. You can also use Lisa Pavelka's Magic Gloss or Tiny Pandora Deep Shine. Now Tiny Pandora Deep Shine is a last resort as far as moulding goes. It's not the best resin for that, it's more of a brush on UV finish. So if you don't have to use it, I'd prefer if you didn't, because it doesn't give the best results. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this UV resin and we're going to pour a fair amount in. And then I want you to brush that all around the edges, so that if there are any bubbles, they're going to get picked up now, because later on it can cause issues. And also don't include anything just yet. Now you want to decide whether this is the front or the back of your pendant. I think I'm going to make it my front, and we will work from the front up. So if this is your front, then you want to put some shells. I've got some shells here, and I've already got them dipped into resin. It was a failed project, and I just let the resin cure on them, as you can see. If they already have resin on them, that is perfectly fine. It's not going to cause any issues as far as bubbles or anything goes. And this will disappear. So if you have pre-dipped resin pieces, that's fine. I'm just looking through, seeing if I can find any that I really like. I quite like this one, and we're probably going to get a little bubble here, so what I want to do is I just want to pour some resin in here before I place it down. Now this is a little tricky, but you want to take it and tip it right down, like so. And that means that the likelihood of having any bubbles trapped is quite unlikely. Okay, now I'm just going to look through some other pieces that I have. These have not been dipped in resin. I'm just going to tip that out actually. Here's a nice one. Pop that in. Here's another nice one. And you can move these all around as you wish. And I've got some little urchin pieces here as well. You can get a shell kit off of my Etsy shop, Jessama Design, if you want. But also just shells collected from the beach will work as well. Now the important thing is to get them stuck down in that resin, like so. And then you're going to pop that into the UV light for maybe 5 minutes just to get that resin to cure. It will stick the shells into place, which means that they won't be floating around when we go to our next layer. So I'll just have that in there. Okay. And we're basically going to be doing something very similar with this one. You're always going to pour in some resin beforehand before you put in any inclusions. And then you want to choose your inclusions. And now for this one, I actually want to put some cogs down. And other little steampunky bits. So any inclusions will work, as you can see. I'm just sorting through this, seeing if there's anything interesting. Nothing. You could put coral in as well. I might actually put a little bit of coral in here. And then when you're finished and you're happy with what you have, make sure you dip that down into the resin and get it covered. Move it into whichever spot you wish it to be. Like so, and I think I want just one more in there. There we go. You can also add some extra little bits. Some tiny little bits of coral here. I'm also going to tip that out, just because it's easier to work with. So I want it to look oceany, but still have that steampunk aesthetic. And by the time we're finished with this one, our other one will be ready to start working with. Just press those down. And it's okay if they don't sit flat, they just need to be secured in that resin. Okay, so that one's ready to go into the UV light. This one is not going to be completely solid, but these will be stuck in there so they won't float for the next bit. The next bit, we're going to take some UV resin and we're going to fill that in, and you can see that hides that spot that we had on the abalone. Just again, bring it all to the sides, get it into all the little gaps and things. If you see bubbles, you need to work them out because they will cause lots of issues later. It's like there's a bubble there. Especially in the corners, that's where you're going to find most of the bubbles. There we go. Okay, and then I'm going to choose a colour for our background. Let's see. I've got some different colours here. I've got this cute little opal one here. I think I'm going to go with this light blue though. And just lightly tap and I don't want to add too much. And then just gently press that all into the resin, get it mixed in. It's not going to reach the bottom because you've already cured that bottom layer, which is why we did that, because we don't want those opal flakes getting in the front. We want them to be in the back here as a background. Okay. And just work them around until you're happy. If you want to add more, you can always add more. If you want to take out some, you can do that as well. It's a little harder, but you can definitely do that. And there we go. I'm pretty happy with that. And so now that's going to go back into the UV light to set it, and then we'll be able to put in our final coat. This one also is done. Okay, and what I want to put in this one actually are some druzy flakes. So we're going to pour the resin in, disperse it, and I've got a little bit of dichroic still on there, so I just want to get that off. Just want to put a bit more in. And now I can see there are some imperfections on the front here. I'm not sure what that is. You sometimes encounter some issues like the resin lifts up out of the mold. That is very easily fixed towards the end. If you see that, don't worry about it. You can fix it later. For now, we just want to essentially finish building our piece. There we go. Then just disperse that around, mix it into the resin so that it's nice and stuck in there. And you can do as many layers as your mold allows you, or as you want. but generally I tend to go with around 3. There we go. I'm going to put that back into the UV light. And let's start on another one. Okay, and the other one's in the oven, in the UV light. Essentially I've just put some more shells in, but I want to show you a different way of finishing it. Okay, so this has been in for a while and we want to put our last coat on. And this last coat you want to leave in for a decent amount of time. I'd say probably around 10 minutes. Just to make sure that it is well cured. And now you might be wondering, why don't I just put them all in the same layer and let it work out? You could do that, but what's going to happen if you do that is they're going to kind of merge together. If you do it like this, you're going to find that they you can see that there are separate layers. The shells float at the top, the opal is obviously at the back, and then this coat over here finish it all off so you don't have any opal sticking out. So it's a better way of finishing it. It's like with the polymer clay. You don't generally put the backing on the polymer clay at the beginning. You tend to put it on after a first bake. Same goes with the resin here. Okay, there we are. And if you want, you could make it double-sided as well with this one. So what I'll do is I'll take some more cogs. Because why not? Because we've got enough space here to make it double-sided. And I want some coral in there. And if the coral doesn't lie flat, that's fine, because I'm going to show you how to take that out. There we go. If it doesn't fit, you can always just cure that with the resin on it and then use it in some other project. Generally, you want to see if we can find some flat pieces. There we go. So you can make it double-sided as well if you want. Very easy to do that. And then I'll put that into the UV light as well. Alright, so this one's been in long enough that we can start playing around with it. And now what I like to do with this is I like to create quite a border between the shells. So I'll put in another layer between the shells. And then I'm going to leave that like that so that we've got a nice big gap. And then I like to bring over some sand. And then once it's finished curing the light, I just take that sand, sprinkle it over the surface, and you're going to make a little bit of a mess of your desk. That's to be expected. There we go. And then I'm going to drop the resin on. Just try to spread that resin around. You're going to end up mixing the sand into it. And that's going to give a really nice beachy feel to this. Whereas the other one had dichroic flakes, giving it a more fantasy effect. This one is going to look like you've just taken a piece of the ocean. Sand and all. And just make sure that you add enough resin that you're not going to get little bits of sand sticking out. There we go. And I like to blow away excess sand as best as possible. And then I'll put that back into the UV light. And then all of those are going to just sit in there for about, I'd say at least 15 minutes. And then when they're done, I'm going to show you how to finish them off. Now they're going to appear hard on the front, but they're still going to be a little soft on the inside. What you can do also is you can turn them upside down. That also sometimes helps. You can put them into the UV light that way, because for it to work, the UV light needs to penetrate all areas. And you can see what it looks like with these translucent molds. So I'll just flip them over a few times and we will see how they look when they're done. Okay, so some of them are just about ready to come out of the molds. So this one's ready to come out. And now it's going to be hot. So just bear that in mind. It should come out nice and clean. Here you can see how that looks. Now we've got a little bubble there. That's not an issue. We've also got things along the side here. That's also not an issue. Do not worry about that. What you want to do though is you want to put that back into the UV light, because it's going to feel a little sticky still, because it doesn't cure completely inside the mold to a nice solid finish. So you're going to put that back into the UV light, let it sit there for about 5 minutes. Okay, let's take this one out. And at the end of the video I'm going to show you some examples, because there are lots of ways of doing this. And this one you can see is a little bit more chaotic. There's a little spot here where the resin didn't penetrate. Don't worry about it if it's not even and you've got bits around the side. Don't worry, easy to fix. And you can see how different the front looks to the back. It just looks better, and that's due to the layering. Okay, and this one also should be just about ready to come out. Before you do that, remove excess sand that might be sitting along the edges. Don't worry about fingerprints. And there we go, you can see how that one looks. You can see it's got a beautiful sandy back, which is just lovely. Okay, and I'm going to put that one in the UV light. I'm going to leave them there for 5 minutes, and in the meantime I'm going to get the stuff that we need to finish them off. Okay, so they've had a fair amount of time in the UV light, and so they look quite nice, but we need to now just finish them off, polish them off and get them looking really nice. So I'm going to demonstrate with this one. So it's got a hole in it as well, it's got bits around the edges, and just in general it's the one with the most problems. This one has a little divot over here. It's essentially almost the exact same as having the hole there. It's got a few divots around the side. This one doesn't have any holes on the front, which is good, and it has very little divots around the front. So basically what I do on these two, you will do, but what I do on this one, you will do for the other two. So you're going to want some wet dry sandpaper that's been dipped into some water, and if you can do this by sink, that's best. And I'm going to start with a 400, and you want to just sand away those little bits, and you can see they sand away very quickly. And you want to go very gently, because essentially we just want to be sanding this very edge over here. We don't want to be sanding the entire area, otherwise it makes a lot more work. So I generally work with a 400. Any higher and it takes quite a bit of time. Any lower, and in general it scratches up the resin a bit too much. Okay, now we've got just this one bit over here. It needs to be sanded off a little bit more. And just repeat with the other ones. Okay, and now I'm going to just sand the front here, because we've got a bit of a divot on the front here and I don't want that. So I'm just going to sand over where that is. So it's nice and smooth, and that is going to scratch it up in such a way that you're not going to be able to see the resin clearly. That's fine, don't worry about that. You'll go up from your 400 now to 600, and you'll sand in the same areas, and this is to go polish it up a bit more. And as for the back, we are going to apply some resin to the front and to the back, just to smooth it out, give it a nice dome, and get rid of any cloudiness that we might have. And as for the bubble that we have in the front, that is going to be taken care of where we put the next layer of resin over the top. You can see it does not take that long. I just wanted to show you with this one how long it actually takes to get it sanded, because when you think resin you think it's going to be hard, you think it's going to take a long time. It really doesn't. There, now it's not going to clear it up completely, but that will shine it up as best as the sandpaper can do. Clean that up in a bit of water. And there you can see that side's a bit cloudy. You might even like the effect. If you want, you can see it gives almost like a moonstone effect. But I don't want that. Now what we want to do is we'll make sure we don't get any water in there. And you want to go and dry this off. Okay, so it's been dried off with a cloth. Now the best way to get it dry as possible is to either use a hairdryer or a heat gun, just to dry off any moisture. There we go. And that will have dried it up. You can see how cloudy that is at the back here. And that's fine. Okay, and I'm just checking if there's anything else. I can see that we're going to need to drill the back here because the hole here is not quite filled out. But in general that looks alright. So we're going to grab a resin mat again, and this time we are going to be using some of Lisa Pavelka's magic gloss, because it gives a really nice dome finish. You can use the same resin as you did before if you want. And actually we will use that resin. I'm not going to use the magic gloss. You can use magic gloss at this point. You can use Teresa Pandora's Deep Shine, but in general I will just use the same resin I used in the beginning. So just put a little bit on to start with, because we want to fill in that hole. And just get it to kind of spill out into that hole. To begin filling it up. And now it's still going to be visible, because it's quite a deep hole. And we want to get as much air out as possible. The air is the part that is visible. And you might even want that there. It's actually quite cute. I kind of like having the air bubble there, but I want to show you how to get out all that air so that you don't have an air bubble. So there still is a cavity there, but if you get all the air out, like I'm trying to do, there we go, it should become practically invisible. Then I'll pour some more resin on, and you've got to be careful because there's this hole over here that I don't want to get resin poured into. And just smooth it over the surface, and that is going to clear it up beautifully. And you will repeat on the back side as well. And then put that into the UV light for 15 minutes, repeat on the back, put it in for about 15 minutes, and that should be our piece finished. I don't tend to do the sides just because we get a lot of drips if we do the sides, so I don't like to do the sides. If you want to do the sides, you can. Just be aware that you probably will get quite a few drips. Okay, so it's beautiful and clear. And if you see bubbles, remove those before you put them in the light. Okay, and I'll repeat with the other two. Okay, so they're all pretty much ready to go. Some need to spend a little bit longer in the UV light, but in general they're just about ready to go. So now just take a wet wipe and just clean off any debris that we might have. Like on the back we had just a little bit there. You can see how nice and clean that is. And on the front as well, you can see how nice and shiny, clean and smooth it is, which is exactly what we are going for. So now we are going to string them. So I've got chain here, that's almost ready to go. I've fitted a link to one side. We need to fit the toggle on the other side as soon as we've strung our pendant. So I've got a little bail here. let's just find our hole. And then we don't want to squeeze with our fingers because we can put in fingerprints that way. Just want to close with our pliers. There, and wiggle it around to make sure that it's not going to slip out for any reason, because that can sometimes happen. But it should move around freely. Just going to make sure that I've got that in as best I can. Okay, there we go. Then, thread through your chain, like so. And we're just going to open this up. We're not even going to use a jump ring, don't need to do that. Pop our toggle clasp on. And that's all you need to do. You've got a nice, easy, well finished resin project. And after I've handled it, I like to just give it one last clean with a wet top, just to make sure that it's nice and clean. You can see how pretty that looks. So I'm now going to bring over the others, and this one needs a hole drilled, so I'm just going to pop it down and go bring over my drill. And now I don't want to be pressing it on, so I'm just going to hold it around the edges, and you want to drill slowly but surely directly into that hole, and it's not blocked up that much, so we should come through any second. And you don't want to do it the opposite way because you can damage the resin that way. You can create cracks and all sorts of things, so you want to go through the other way. So because there's a hole here that we could put our drill through, you want to go through the other way, just because I find that it means that it comes out neater. There we go. Then just run your drill through there to clean it out. All done. And we will also apply a bail to that one. And I'll repeat with the other one because the other one also has a clogged up hole. Okay. And here they are, all finished up. Very sweet little pendants. They'll make great gifts. They also work very nicely for market jewellery. Very quick and easy to make as well. Not including the time that they spent in the UV light, it probably took me about 15 minutes actual work time to make all of these put together. And you can see they look really quite nice. And there are endless ideas as far as this goes. See, they look really quite pretty. And you could make them double-sided as well. So they're not time consuming at all. And I just want to move these over just a touch, so that I can show you some other ones that I have made. So here's one using the technique that I used in the previous resin tutorial I did. Here's another one using the same technique. I want to show you all three of these, so you can see how pretty those are. They're well finished, all beautiful and clean. Backs are nice and finished as well. Okay, and then using the techniques that I showed today, here's one. That's basically the same as this one over here, except that we didn't do a backing on it, and I included some little druzy flakes and some little micro balls, I think they're called. Here's another one, just the there's no inclusions other than the shells and coral, no backing on that one. Here's another one just like that. You can use larger molds, as you can see. It's a little donut mold. Here's another one which was using that backing again, but I put a feather in this time around, and I also used some pinata ink to colour the back, let that dry, and then put some white and then put some resin over top of the alcohol ink. You can see how pretty that looks, and it's going to look very different depending on what molds you use. Then here's another one which is using steampunk cogs and things, and we had a backing of those micro beads again. Another one here where we're using kind of lots of little bits and pieces as far as cogs and mica flakes go. Then that's using all of the techniques that I showed today. Then other ones are these ones over here where I was using some ink, so it's using a very similar technique to what we did over here, except that I swirled it around, as you can see. Here's another one where I'm using a completely different mold. I use the technique shown in this tutorial. I'll provide a link to that. Put some little micro beads and shells at the bottom, and then put some alcohol ink on the top, and then continue putting little micro beads in, and you can see it cured like that, and then I finished it off this way. So that's quite a pretty necklace. Then here's another one where I basically took the opal flakes that we used in this one, some dark blue ones, and I just filled the resin with that, and so we have kind of like an opal photochroic look. So you can see there are lots and lots of ways of using the resin, and it's very easy. Most of these can be done with the UV resin. You don't necessarily have to have that two-part resin. The two-part resin that I would recommend, the one that I use, is ice resin, but you could use just about any two-part resin you want. So let me know what you thought in the comments below. Let me know if you would like to see more tutorials. I would love to send out some more resin tutorials. They're quite fun. I'm going to stick with the easy side. I'm not going to be going too deep into resin, but I am going to start exploring ways to use these resin pieces and then use them with the polymer clay, because I know a lot of you want to do that. I'm going to be exploring how to do that, but I want to see whether you enjoy these tutorials as well. So let me know in the comments below whether you like this tutorial, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.